So we have our last speaker of the day, Jim Boykin from Internet Marketing Ninjas, also a proud sponsor. We love Jim. He's
I can see him.
Look at him. He's majestic.
This is probably the first time not seeing Jim where he hasn't handed me a pair of the glasses with the rainbows in them. Like, you think you're on a trip?
Well, I can grab
Jim.
some.
We can't wait to hear your presentation.
I think as some background, I know I've been in search for 23 years. You've been in probably just as long.
Yep.
Boykin's been in search longer than that. So you've seen, I don't know how much at this point, just everything.
AOL search.
Yeah.
Seen the ups and downs. Can you hear me okay, just to make sure?
Absolutely. You're coming in great.
Cool beans. Should I share my screen now?
We would love nothing more.
All right, I'm going to cross my fingers that it's going to work here. Wow.
It's okay.
All right, we're looking here. It says, okay, here we go. Bingo. Allow.
You got it? We'll blame TJ. That's always his fault.
We're checking
is
here.
the shirt I should have worn today.
Okay, can you see my screen?
There we go. It's coming up.
Yep, there it is.
All right,
Start
perfect beans. Here we go. All right, so as Joe had said, I've been doing this for a long time, not quite 23 years, but it's been a while. And SEO is my religion and my law, won't never change, may think strange. You can't kill SEO, it's here to stay. That's my Aussie impression.
Real quick, why don't we, you're not in presentation mode, so let's go ahead and expand it so everyone can see the entire screen. You won't be able to see yourself in the platform, but you'll be able to have the whole thing going.
No problem. Is there something that I have to do here?
Just put the presentation in play mode.
Presentation and play mode.
Just play from beginning?
Yeah. Like expand it to full screen.
Well, that's what I was doing, actually. View. Slideshow from beginning.
There we go.
Okay. Is it working?
It's opening in a different window. That's why.
Oh, yeah. Do you have two screens?
Nope. Actually, just one. Here, let me, one moment. We will get rid of all my other
screens.
screens.
See your PowerPoint program.
Okay. Slideshow from beginning. All right. That should be looking good for you. Is it not?
I mean, let's just go with it. It's fine.
Just hit the screen, slide down when you're doing it. It should probably work.
Okay, you tell me if I'm good to go.
Yep, go ahead, Jim. Good to go.
Okay, so you heard my Aussie singing. All right, let's move on here. All right, so we've had between 40 and 50 employees for the past 6 years. We found that's a really good size for our company. Just to give you a breakdown of our Ninja team, we have 42 employees. They've been here pretty close to 9 years, so pretty seasoned staff. The majority of our team are are up on the top there. They're the content marketers and the brand asset team. And the content marketers and the brand asset team, they're the guys doing, creating great content and trying to do things to get other sites to link to our clients. So that's one of our biggest services and the biggest part of our team. Because, I mean, everyone here knows you can have the most amazing content that's in the entire world and the most amazing user experience compared to all your competitors. But without good backlinks, your chances of ranking in Google are pretty slim. Everyone knows that. I mean, there's even been studies about that.
Jim,
Slim
unfortunately,
chance.
it's happening again.
Oh, no.
So what we could do is just turn it off presenter mode and just do slide by slide.
Let's see. Does this
So
work?
basically, as you're talking, just click the next slide.
That is what I'm doing.
Okay, yeah. So keep doing it as that. For whatever reason, when you do presenter mode, sometimes it'll pop it up into 2 different tabs. And so
Okay.
Crowdcast is capturing the ROM tab. But now it's catching up to where you're supposed to be. So as you're talking and you're doing your presentations, you just click the next one under, and it should be fine from now.
All right. So the view that you see now is working enough?
Yes, it is.
Perfect. All right. And we're
Thank
going
you.
So yeah, without links, you're not going to rank. You need to get links. In fact, there's a big study about all the ranking factors, and everything in green that I marked here has to do with content, and everything that's in red has to do with backlinks. So of all the biggest ranking factors, links are a huge part of that. So let's talk about the top 4 ranking factors. And I know we have lots of seasoned people here as well, but the links is one of the biggest factors. The quality of the links, the expertise of the links, the authority of the links, and the anchor text. But you can't overdo it with anchor text. And then the second factor has to do with the content. The keywords, the words you're writing, the relevance between the searcher and your content, the accuracy, the trust. Third item, major item to do with ranking factors, has to do with user experience. Query relevant, is there pogo sticking? What I mean by pogo sticking, for those that don't know, if someone searches for Google, they see your site in the search result, they click on your link, and then they go to your site, and then they go back to Google and click on someone else. You don't want that. You don't want to have the unhappy user like this guy here. Okay. And then the fourth item has to do with the technical aspects, things like mobile, load speed, crawling errors, and issues like that. But links are often the biggest key to rankings. And, it has been since the beginning. Here's me and Larry Page and Sergey Brin and Craig Silverstein in their major paper that they wrote in college called The Anatomy of a Large-Scale Hypertextual Search Engine, that's autographed by them. And from the very beginning, Google's been all about links, and it hasn't changed. I know there's a lot of people like, I hate that Google uses links as part of their algorithm. Well, hate it or like it, it is what it is. And, it's like a minefield. There's a lot of shady stuff with people trying to get links. And you don't want to be that guy. You don't want to be the guy that's caught in the middle of a fire. And unfortunately, a lot of people get into that fire and they didn't know what they were walking into. It can be dangerous. But, these days there's 2 things that really amaze me as an SEO. And, the first thing is the people who ignore link building. There's a lot of people, a lot of companies that they just want to pretend that trying to get links to a site doesn't exist. They'll work on your meta tags, they'll work on your on page, they'll work on the content, but they want to close their eyes when it comes to link building. And it's like, Jesus, this is one of the biggest factors of ranking in Google. How can you ignore it? And there's a lot of companies that ignore it, and I know why. There's several reasons. It's dangerous. I think that 99.9% of people that are trying to get backlinks are SEO companies. I don't trust them. I think a lot of people are doing things that are wrong, and I think a lot of companies are scared to go down any route because they're scared to get penalized. And so a lot of people, they just ignore it. They pretend that it doesn't exist. And the other thing that I'm amazed at is the amount of people that buy links from databases. I mean, I used to go to a lot of conferences, but you can search on the web and, you go up to people and they're like, yeah, we have databases of thousands of bloggers where you can be getting links from, and you're like, all right, I got a finance site. And they're like, oh yeah, we got, 1,000 bloggers that are finance related, and we'll write a finance related blog post for you and we'll put it on this finance blogger. And it all comes from databases, and they're selling to that person. They're selling to thousands of other people. Like all the finance sites that are doing SEO, well, bad SEO, are in that database. And the stuff is so easy to map. There's databases like this, where they put all the sites where you can buy your links from or get your blog posts from. They categorize them. Here's the Moz score, the Majestic score. And, a lot of people are like, I need at least a Moz domain score of, 40 or whatever. And people are charging by this. And it's like, it's so wrong. All these databases can be mapped out. I think in this presentation, I don't even show our tool, but, I hate to say it, but most of the people that are selling links, we put their database into our tools. I mean, if I have their list, so does Google. They write to us, hey, do you want our list? Yeah, send them on over. And we take those spreadsheets and we throw them into our link analysis tool. So anytime we're analyzing someone's links, I can kind of go in there and look like, oh, you have a whole bunch of links from link seller Bob. And, here's how many you have, and here they all are. And people are always like, wow, how'd you know I'm buying links from Bob? And it's like, I've got Bob's database. And it's like, I can see them all. And it's like, if I have them and I see them, so can Google. So it's like, that's the start of the disavow. But I don't want to come off as if I'm some, high and mighty SEO who's never done things that can get you in trouble, because I have. I've been down the other road a couple times, more than once. My house has been built by links. This is a Lego house that one of my employees, they built for me. And years ago, I built my house on links, starting in 99. And, there was things like link trading was the popular thing. And then pyramid linking strategies and three-way linkings and buying high page rank links. Oh, it was the good old days. I really enjoyed it until November 7th, 2003. Now, this is a long time ago, but this was the first time I got hit. And, in November 7th, 2003, it's one of those dates that I don't forget. My Lego house came crumbling down. And so, I had to rebuild my house again. And so I rebuilt it again. And I thought, well, you know what? I'll just buy links under the radar. Google won't know. I'm going to get these stealthy links in there. And even if someone were looking at it, they would never know it was bought. And I thought, I'm so under the radar. I'm so good. I'm so clever. And we were doing so good that, even Google was buying links from us. Just to go back here, this was 12 years ago. Google, at one point, they bought a company called Performix, and Performix had been buying links from us. And then Google bought them. And it's like, oh man, like Google's now buying links from us. So they were buying links from us for just a few months. And then, guess what happened? The house crumbled again. And it was like, oh man, my stealthy links that are under the radar aren't as stealthy as I had hoped. And so, I had to come out with a post saying, paid links aren't worth it to me. And, on November 13th, 2008, I had to say, look, I'm done doing that other stuff. I don't like having my house come down on me. So that was when we stopped. And, but, the thing is, I've been hit, and I learned back in 2008. It took a couple of times of being hit to be like, all right, I don't want to do this again. Let's look at other things. But I'm not the only one that's been busted for getting links. Even Google's been. This was after I got hit. This is after I learned. This is 2009, and Google slaps themselves. They slapped Google Japan with a penalty for buying links. And, I took it twice and learned, and some people may say, Jim, why did it take two times to learn? Well, here's Google caught buying paid links again, 2012. There they are buying links. And then there was about this was when Danny Sullivan still worked at Search Engine Land, and he was investigating this, and he says, it appears that Google hired a marketing company to run a campaign to promote their browser, Google Chrome. One of the marketing companies, Danny Sullivan thinks I edited out the name of the company. They paid bloggers with a $40 Amazon gift certificate to write sponsored posts on Google Chrome. Well, here they did it again. This is 2018. Google caught buying links again. It's like, I learned, and here's kind of the scary thing is that, I learned Google sometimes did it by accident. The average Joe website out there often get caught in these because they don't know any better. Why? Because they go somewhere and they're like, I got a finance site. Someone's like, I got a bunch of finance bloggers. You can get links from here. And they're like, that seems relevant. Looks good. What's wrong with this? Well, and we'll talk a little bit more about that in a moment. So Google busted. On the flip side, if you're selling links, you also can get in trouble as well. Google can prevent sites from passing PageRank when links get bad. And this happens a lot more than people know, where Google stops PageRank from flowing. And a lot of sites were, and I think I'm going to talk about this a little bit later, people are always like, I want to get a link from Forbes. And it's like, Forbes hasn't passed PageRank in years. There's a lot of sites haven't passed PageRank in years. Like sites that are known to sell links don't pass PageRank in Google. Weather Underground, some of them, they haven't passed in years, but people don't know that. When they look at the site and they're like, it's got a high domain authority. This is great. I want a link like that. And it's like, unless you're getting it for the traffic, which is good and respectable, but if you're doing it for some kind of link juice, you're not getting any from a lot of these sites. And link sellers can get hit as well. They can get warnings. But let's talk about Penguin for a moment. So Penguin, even though it ended years ago, was kind of Google's way to start penalizing sites or lowering sites in value that had a lot of artificial backlinks. It's now baked into the algorithm. So it used to happen, on particular days, here's your traffic, boom, you fall in traffic and you're like, all right, it was May 25th. And I know that my links are bad. And so you would kind of know why you fell in rankings. Well, now it's part of the core algorithm. And so not everything happens on the same day. Yes, there's core updates, but there's a lot of stuff going on between those core updates. And a lot of the stuff going on between core updates is Google's constantly finding links that should not count. And so you may lose rankings, and it may because it could be because you had links that once were counting, but now are no longer counting. Now, here's an interesting thing. So now that Penguin's rolled into the algorithm, what often happens is that if you have bad or shady links, it often will now affect a specific page or a specific folder. Not always the whole site. It used to be if Google didn't like your backlinks, the whole site goes down. Now what happens often is that a page may lose rankings or a folder may lose rankings depending on what's going on there. So here's a quote from John Mueller with regards to devaluing these low quality links. Instead of punishing you, in general, we try and figure out what kind of spammy tactics are happening here, and we'll say, well, we'll just try and ignore this part with regards to your website. So Google tries to ignore backlinks. They say, don't worry about it, but they still penalize sites. We had a billion dollar company came to us a little while ago, and they said, hey, we've been hit by a manual penalty. And, I think it was like the same day that John Mueller or someone from Google said, yeah, don't worry about doing disavow. Don't worry, we got it. And it's like, tell that to the to that $1 billion company whose stock is going to be going way down now because they just got penalized in Google. Trust Google unless they manually hit you. But I get why Google doesn't want to promote people using the disavow. We'll talk about that a little bit later. But so now that Google is part of the core algorithm and it's now real time rather than refreshing, and it's not always a site-wide issue. Now, again, it's often a page or a folder issue, which brings up an interesting thing because, now watching your keyword rankings on pages and folders can be really important. And I think Google just said really recently that even if you have old spam, that can still be an issue today. There's a lot of people who are like, well, we were doing some shady stuff, or we don't know the stuff we were doing back in 2003 or 2004, but, it's been a long time, and, Google's probably going to be okay with that. Well, that's not necessarily the case, and Google just said that. One of the Google reps just said that incredibly recently, that it doesn't matter how old it is. If it's spam, you can still get in trouble. So one of the things you might want to do is, if you see a drop on a folder or a page, you may want to investigate it a little bit more and be like, is there something shady in there as far as backlinks go? Now, speaking about backlinks, like everywhere I go, people always come up to me and they're like, hey, Jim, we hear you're the backlink guy. We want white hat link building. And I'm like, great, that's what I try and do. And then they follow it up with, well, here's the 5 phrases we need to rank for. It's like, and then they follow that up with, well, we need to at least get X amount of links per month, and make sure it at least has a domain authority of this score, and make sure they're all from finance pages, and, or whatever their topic is, and make sure that, that we want to rank high for, I don't know, cheap health insurance or whatever. So we want that as anchor text, and we want all these links to go to our commercial pages. And I'm like, and you started out by saying you wanted to be white hat. Like, this stuff is not possible. And there's some people that they'll also be like, well, Jim, we already got the low hanging fruit. And I'm like, great. What is that low hanging fruit? And they're like, well, we submitted it to a whole bunch of directories. We did some article syndication sites. We got some guest blog posts, forum links, paid for some blog reviews, hired some link builders. We interviewed our network of sites. Maybe even some are like, we got some PBNs. And I'm kind of looking at their low hanging fruit like that. And I'm like, no. And I know the reason why everyone wants these kind of links. I know why. It's usually because there's some boss that's saying something like, I need to be number 1 for this phrase or you're fired. And as an SEO, you're going like, oh man, what do I do now? Like, I need to get number 1 or I'm going to get fired. And so what do I do? And so here's what a lot of people do. They run out and they get a whole bunch of guest blog posts from guest blog post sites. And it's from some inventory, again, like I talked about, where someone's got that great big spreadsheet of links, and they get it because they think their boss is going to like it. They're like, hey, boss, we got on a finance site and they wrote an article about, our cheap health insurance, and here's our link right in there. And the boss looks at it and goes, yeah, this is good. And it's like, they don't understand that, the post before that, is for a payday loan site. And the post after that is to some other shady SEO thing. Like, how do I say, like, all the SEOs are buying there. And you look at that finance site and every single post is some kind of guest post to some other site, and you can map this stuff all out. That's kind of the scary thing. Like, if I have tools to map the stuff out, Google definitely has tools to map this stuff out. So let's go ahead and, I had someone just the other day that said, hey, I can get a link from Forbes. Like, I got an email from someone, and it's like, oh man, like, I get these emails all the time. I get them like every day in LinkedIn. I get mail of this. Hey, you want to get a link on Forbes and Mashable and Entrepreneur and all these sites? And it's like, Jesus, like, this stuff's been brought up in the news so much. And, at first glance, for someone that doesn't follow the SEO news for years, like, this sounds great. I want to get a link from these sites. And it's like, if you're trying to get a link from these sites because you want some good traffic, great. If it's relevant, great. If you're doing it for link purposes, well, kind of the last laugh's on you, because those links don't count. A lot of these sites, they've been talked about so much that their external links are not counting. In fact, this was just brought up really recently, where someone asked John Mueller, they said, hey, since your recent tweet with SEMrush, I love SEMrush. For those that don't, probably everyone here knows, they started a guest blog service briefly. And then I think they pulled it away, but it might be coming back. I'm not sure what all is going on with that. But anyways, John Mueller said, hey, we don't like this service. And it's kind of turned into a hubbub. But in any case, Mark asked John, he says, we all know that paying for guest blog posts is against the guidelines. But what about guest posts in general where no money changes hands? And John Mueller, this is on June 11th, responds with, that's part of the part that's problematic is the links. If you're providing the content, the links, then those links shouldn't be passing signals and should have the rel sponsored rel no follow attached. Fine to see it as a way of reaching a broader audience. So, for those people that think guest blog posting is okay, or they think it's okay because we're not paying money, well, it's another way that, Google has said for a long time that they're not a fan of guest blog posts. In fact, they want you to no follow all guest blog post links. And, here's this guy from Google and he's smiling because he's mapping out your links. And, if he maps out your links, a lot of people may get an email like this, which you don't want to get. And this basically says, hey, we've detected that some of your links are not natural and blah, blah, blah. You're penalized. And so you don't want to get a message like that. So how do you measure the links that you have? And then the next question is, how do you get links that you don't have to worry about? So let's talk a little bit about measuring links for a disavow. Now, this is a warning that Google gives because a lot of people don't know how to measure links right. They'll be like, all right, anything below, a site authority of Moz, Majestic, or Ahrefs, or SEMrush, or any of their scores, they'll pick an arbitrary number, 20, and there's anything below a 20, we're gonna disavow. That must be bad. It's got a low score. Or they'll use some other tool and they'll be like, oh, this says it's toxic and this says it's good, and so we'll just disavow those. And it's something where you can do more harm to your site. In fact, this is from Marie Haynes. I think it was during one of the PubCon talks where a question was asked, how often do site owners disavow links that hurt them? And Gary from Google's response was, it's often enough that if it were me, that I'd remove the disavow tool. If you don't know what you're doing, you can shoot yourself in the foot. So here's a Google saying that if it was him, he would remove the tool because too many people don't know how to use it and they're harming themselves. They're removing links that are good, or they're adding links to the disavow that are good, and they're missing links that they think are good because it's got some high score and they think, oh, this must be good. It's the Weather Underground or it's Forbes or whatever it is. This must be a good link. It's got a high score, and it's like those tools aren't 100% accurate. It takes a human to be able to look at it, and you can't just be like, do these blanket statements of what's good or bad using a tool. So there's another question. If you disavow links, could it help the rest of your links? And this is kind of a debatable thing. Marie Haynes has asked John Mueller, hey, if a site didn't get a manual action and you remove some links, you put some links in your disavow, can your rankings go up? Because she's seen some rankings go up after doing a disavow with the sites that weren't hit. And John says, well, that can be the case. It's something where our algorithms that when they look at it and they see, oh, there's a bunch of really bad links, then maybe they'll be a bit more cautious in regards to links in general from a website. So if you clean it up, then the algorithm will look at it and say, oh, it's kind of okay. It's not that bad. So could there be a benefit in disavowing backlinks if you're not penalized? Yes. But I guess the problem is more people are doing more harm than good. And I think the problem is people think they know how to measure a link. They use scores like Moz Trust or Href Trust, Majestic Trust, toxic links. Ugh is my thought to those. Things that your link analysis tools don't do. I kind of look at all those tools as like one level. Here's your site, here's a backlink to it. And that's kind of where they're stopping. You take any site and you just see kind of, only the sites that link to it. But you're missing a lot of stuff. You're not looking at what are the sites that link to the sites that link to you. It's a whole other levels away. They're not looking at the other links. What are the commercial phrases? They're not looking at, who are the same owners. They're not analyzing links that get clicks and links that don't get a clicks. Is a link really a link if no one's ever clicked on it? So what do you use to find backlinks? Do you use Majestic, Moz, Ahrefs? Do you use Google Webmaster Central links? All those places all have a small piece of the web. They all have a small slice of the web, and it's not the same slice. And then there's Google. And Google's got a big slice of the web, and Google also knows, hey, out of the big slice of the web, there's a bunch of that stuff that's junk. I think they said something like 25 billion new spam pages a day come up and that they throw out. But it's like Google's aware of a big chunk of the web. They know all this stuff is junk. And Moz, Majestic, and Ahrefs each have a little tiny slice of the web. This is from one of our internal tools where we grab the backlinks from Moz, Ahrefs, Majestic Fresh, Historical, and SEO Kicks. And we kind of threw in a list of backlinks here to our site. And we showed, who is it that found the links? Was it Moz, Majestic, Ahrefs, SEO Kicks? And, the top links, a lot of them know about, the stuff that's really popular. But once you start to dig down a little bit, there's some links that Majestic knows about and Moz doesn't. There's some that Moz knows about and Majestic doesn't. There's some that SEO Kicks or Ahrefs knows about that the others don't. If you're only using one of those, you're getting a very small slice of the internet. Here's an interesting fact as well, that 89% of sites that ranked 7 years ago are no longer ranking today. That's from Marcus Tober at Search Metrics. And I want to talk a little bit more about that in detail because it ties in as well with why I don't trust Moz, Majestic, and Ahrefs domain scores as a score of if a site is good or not. We're not going to go into the details of that. And so let's just talk a little bit about the reality. So this is one of our tools where I'm looking at sites, and I'm looking at the number of backlinks, domains that go to them, and the number of keyword phrases they rank, and their organic value, which is pulled from SEMrush. I'm going to look at one of these on the bottom here. I think we can scan in a little bit. It's the outsourced to Philippines, and there's 3,403 other domains that link to that site. And you'd think, wow, that site must be doing pretty good. Well, it ranks for 38 keywords, and it's worth $17 a month now. And when you go and you look at the history of the site, it's like, crunch, flatline. And it's like, that's one of those sites that's been banned in Google. But it's interesting because, they show high scores. Here's kind of another site. I grabbed another site. I realized this is probably too small for you to see, but it's Pro Garden Biz, and it's got 1,600 domain backlinks, and it used to be really highly valuable. And if you look at the domain scores from Moz, Majestic, or Ahrefs, they show these high scores, but it's another one where the site is flatline. It's another site that's been penalized. And the problem with the Moz, Majestic, and Ahrefs is that they don't take into account sites that have been penalized in Google. They'll give them high scores. We can go on. Here's one more I'll show you, Forum Snits. And so I was looking over backlinks. I'm like, wow, the site's got 4,595 backlinks. That's a lot. And you look at these scores over here, the domain scores, Moz, Majestic, and Ahrefs are really high. The particular page is really high, but the site's only worth a dollar today. The site here down here has been crushed. The site's been penalized by Google. And I kind of went in and I was like, I recall this site. It seems familiar. I go into the site and I kind of went into the sponsored page when I grabbed the screenshot, and I'm like, oh yeah, people are buying links right up to this day. People are like, ooh, hi Moz or Majestic or Ahrefs score, page and domain, yummy. I want to get on this. And I'm like, well, this looks familiar. And I go back and I'm like, oh yeah, 2002, I found that site and I got a link on there. Man, it did wonders back in 2002. And then in 2003, Google stopped the page rank from flowing from that site. There used to be a whole site called Blocked PR. It hasn't been around for years, but it kind of listed all the sites that no longer passed PageRank. The site is gone and the list is gone, but it still goes on to this day where all the time Google are marking sites to not pass PageRank. Again, these have high scores, and people are like a lot of people will be like, this is a yummy backlink, and it's like, no, it's not. You got to remember that 89% of sites that ranked 7 years ago aren't ranking today. But I'll tell you, all those sites, have these Moz, Majestic, and Ahrefs scores, and they're not taking away or taking into account sites that have been penalized. I don't trust any of those scores. So I scribbled them all out. I don't trust those scores. All right, so let's move on to another area. 4 methods for getting trusted links. So I'm going to go through some methods really quick. We're going to talk about broken link building. We're going to talk about trust bait link building and some competitor link building and brand asset link building. And I'm going to do this fairly quick, but let's see, broken link building. All right, so here I am. I happen to be on this really cool EDU page, and I notice, this link down here on the bottom is a broken link. There's plenty of plugins that you can get that'll kind of tell you if there's broken links. There's tools you can run. You can run a tool through the EDU. But in any case, I'm on this page. I see that broken link, and I'm like, boy, that's total automotive history, and it's on an EDU. Maybe there's something I can do here. So let me go back into the Wayback Machine and see what used to be on there. And I see that, this EDU page, this is some other site that it's linking out to. And in any case, I take that page that's broken and I go back into the Wayback Machine and I say, hey, what used to be on that page? And I look at the page and I'm like, all right, that's some really good information that used to be on there. And so I go to my writer and I say, hey, writer, I want you to write something like this. And I give them the link to that Wayback Machine URL. And I say, but, make it even better and cite some more resources. And so they do that. And then I take it and I go to the client. I say, hey, client, I want you to publish this educational paper right on your website that we wrote for you about automotive history. And so the client, they publish it on their site, and then we write to the professor, hey, Professor Bob, I was researching blah, 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 came across your page. Hey, I saw that you got a broken link on there. And hey, if you want to fix it, I got this other really cool page I found where you could fix that broken link. And a lot of times you'll be like, oh, thanks. Like, not only did you point out the broken link, but you gave me a solution. Hey, that's great. Now let's go back to this page. We go back here and we got this broken link. And I'm like, well, I know the EDU page is linking to this page. I wonder if there's other pages that link to that page. And so, I can take that page that's broken and throw it into Moz, Ahrefs, or Majestic and be like, let's see if there's other people that link to that page that's now a 404. And I look and I'm like, oh, wow, there's 200 other websites linking to that broken page. Hey, this might be fun. And so, not only am I going to write to Professor Larry and tell him about his broken link, but I'm going to write to Professor Mo, and I'm going to write to Professor Curley, and I'm going to write to all those people that are linking to that broken link and say, hey, you got a broken link, and I got a great fix for it. So that's the broken link building in a nutshell. Let's talk a little bit about trusted link building. So one of the pages that we created, we did a page that was something like 98 resources to build your own website. Just some really great resource. I think this was for a design company. And so, we wrote a really, really good long resource. And then we looked at, who might want to link to that resource. And so, if you can read this, this is a library on an EDU, another library on an EDU, another EDU, another EDU. So, we wrote to lots of colleges that had pages where we felt that this resource would go really good on. And we wrote to them and said, hey, we're learning now about building our own website, and your page on that EDU library is a really cool page. And, here's another thing that you might want to link to. And sometimes they will. Now, here's how to do that. You can run a search for something. Let's go back to that car site. Like maybe you wrote that article about, Henry Ford and the assembly line that you wrote to all the professors for. Hey, you got a broken link. You could take that same article or an article from scratch, start running some searches in Google, grab, a whole bunch of results from them, and start looking for pages that have lots of external links where you're going to write to them and say, hey, I saw you had a great page about whatever, and, here's another link you may want to add to that page. FYI, when we write to people, I don't write to bloggers. I don't trust bloggers. I think 99.9% of bloggers that will give you a link, they're in some kind of network, they're in some kind of spreadsheet, they're in someone's stuff, there's something that's artificial. If a blogger naturally links to our content, hey, great. If I didn't ask them and they wrote to it, I'll take it. But I'm not going to write to a blogger because I don't trust bloggers. Some of the blogger will be like, yeah, I'll put you up here. And I've got a whole bunch of other sites. You want to work out some deal here. And it's like, I just don't trust bloggers. So here is an example. If you're writing that expert content, hey, Tom, I was doing some research on the history of the automobile and I came across your page, and your page was one of two of the great pages I found. Here's the other page, a really great page about automobile history. Now, notice this is the page about automobile history. I'm not writing a page about, spark plugs or, engine parts or like something that's like a commercial page. Like, why would someone link to that? It's like, unless it's artificial, and I'm not trying to get artificial. So I'm trying to write, if you got a car site, I'm going to write stuff about automobile history. I'm going to add a really cool library to the site. I'm going to add all sorts of great resources. I'd better get moving here because I think I'm running low on time. So next thing, competitor link harvesting, but be careful because your competitors may have bad backlinks too. And if you're harvesting their backlinks, you just got to be careful. Here's how to do competitor link building. So you identify a handful of your competitors, you download their backlinks. You then, in a sense, do a disavow. You remove the stuff that's artificial, and then you can group them into categories. Here's blogs, here's forum news, articles, resources. You're going to make a list of the sites you feel you can get on. And ideally, you want to get a link on the page that links to your competitor. That's not always possible. If you can't get a link on the page that links to your competitor, then just try and get on the site. All right, brand assets. So quickly here's a brand asset we did. This was an interactive infographic. It was really cool and it did really well. So we released it, I think, at the end of November. The top line is the traffic. I got 13 visits at the end of November. Then I got 11,000 visits, 660, 1,970. Then in March, it got over 1 million visits to that. Over 1 million visits, that infographic, which is really cool. And then 100,000 orders, like 5 months after we released it, it went viral. It got a ton of traffic, over 1 million visits during that time. Now, the cool thing is look at the referring domains. It has 246 referring domains. It all happened after it went viral. It went viral and people wrote about it. And that's really the end goal. We used to do these fancy reports. Hey, look at all the cool people that tweeted or retweeted, and look at all these signals you got from all these social places. And in the end, the people will be like, well, how many links did it get? And, and so one of the main measurements we look at is the number of links, but we're not asking for those links. We're trying to put whatever it is in front of as many eyes as possible so that news people will write about it and bloggers will write about it. But I'm never going to write to a blogger. But if a blogger naturally links to something I wrote, hey, great. All right, here's another one we did. This one here got 161 links. This is another one of those interactive infographics, 161 links. I happened to grab that one client. So as I was putting together the presentation, I ended up with that last thing. And I'm like, well, let's just look at the brand assets that we did for this client and how well they did as far as backlinks. So here were the first 8 we did. One of them went viral. The other did, okay. Here were the next 8 that we did. And then here were the last 8. So 2 more did really well. The average was 41 links, but again, you should know that not everything that you're going to create is going to go viral. Some's going to do, some's going to do, wow. And some may go, wow, right off the bat, and some may go, wow, later, and some may never go, wow. It's not something that's guaranteed. The goal is to put it in front of as many eyes as possible so that people link to it. Here's another one we did. Here's some of the tweets and Facebook and links and all that. That's nice. But, getting links from Huffington Post, BuzzFeed, Distractified, Board Panda, that's the cool stuff that gets you noticed by news places and real bloggers. They're going to write about the news. Even George Takei shared this one. It got 37,000 views on there. Now, it's great that it did really cool on Facebook and got shared on Facebook. But the real thing is you want to put it in front of as many eyes as possible so people will write about it and talk about it. Here's another one and how that did. These kind of links are really cool links, and we didn't ask those people to write about it. They found it and wrote about it. This one got on a couple news shows. This one got some great links. This one got some great links. I'm kind of shooting towards the end here. Here's our main methods of advertising for things like the brand assets. We're doing Facebook ads, Twitter ads, the Instagram ads, sometimes Google ads. We're doing a lot of Reddit marketing mix. There's some other submittal sites. Trusted site outreach emails, that's rare. Journalist outreach is rare too, unless it's something where we're like, here's the 10 dirtiest cities in America or something. Then we'll write to those that are the 10 dirtiest or the 10 cleanest. So to wrap this up, now go forth, create great content, and then promote it to the right eyes. And stay away from spreadsheets. They can be mapped. Thank you.
Do it.
All right.
We back? We back?
We are back.
That was awesome, man.
Thank you.
I don't know how many glasses Joe's actually tanked on this table.
No, I have not tanked any glass. Well, one fell over, but it didn't
I got
break.
my ninja wine here.
It's just nice.
Oh, yeah.
Nice.
You know what we're going to have to do there, Boykin? When this whole crazy thing is over, we're going to have to do like a brown bag wine thing. Bring your wine. We'll bring our wine. We'll have ourselves a nice dinner.
A little wine off.
Good times.
A little wine off.
We'd love to.
Well, thank you, Jim, so much. And again, thank you for being a sponsor. Obviously, we love Internet Marketing Ninjas. You guys are well respected in the community and obviously a long-time SEO. So thank you so much for joining us today. We really do appreciate it at the DMO.
Absolutely.
My pleasure.
Yes.
So
the next thing what we're going to do is we're going to take a little bit of a station identification to break, where we're going to switch around our cameras, get it set up so we have OBS that's not going to fail on the Bouchane side, so we're going to bring in the winemakers and kick off our wine tasting.
It looks like TJ's setting that up right now.
Oh, look at that. Oh my gosh. So this kitchen, should we tell them how much they paid for that stove?
No, it's an ungodly amount of money.
It's a ridiculous. Is it on the site? Maybe they'll say it. It's like $250,000 for the stove.
It was pretty expensive. So, again, let's just once again say thank you to Jim.
Thank you, Jim.
And we're going to start turning it over to our next part of the program, which is our virtual wine tasting. So if you guys weren't aware, we are doing wine tastings now at the end of our summits to kind of differentiate ourselves between us and some other shows. And, obviously with our partnership with Bouchane and being in the Napa Valley for our regular events, we wanted to bring that experience to you guys as well. Now, even if you weren't a part of our VIP club this time around, you'll still learn about the wine tasting process and pull out some notes from the wine itself and really get some experience about the wine and Bouchane. And it should be highly educational and even better for us.